sure the one fan is doing it for the whole room. Let's see.
Just turn it on.
not work?
No, you just turn it. Just hit that button.
Just make sure it's not.
Good evening, everyone. Seeing it as it is 7 o'clock, I'll call the June 29th meeting of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen to order. Will you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to note that this meeting is being recorded and televised by Chelmsford Telemedia. Is there anyone else who's recording the meeting this evening? Okay, really nice. Great. We have a few public service announcements to start off our meeting tonight. We have Charlene Svensson and Ron Hubbard from the Lions Club to discuss the country fair. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Ron Hubbard. I live at 7 Ranch Road, and I'm also the president of the Chelmsford Lions Club. My colleague Charlene is the secretary, and we're here to representing the Chelmsford Lions, and we've been in existence actually since 1948. In past 67 years, we've helped countless individuals suffering from mainly eye disease. We've made many generous donations to the Mass Eye Research, and we've donated to both the police and the fire department. And every year we also give scholarships to Chelmsford High and Neshoba Tech. All of these donations have been funded through our fundraising activities. This July we will hold our country fair coming up next week. It'll start, it's all a part of the 4th of July festivities. It'll start on Friday the 3rd. Vendors will be set up and open for business from 5 p.m. on the 3rd until 11 p.m. And then the country fair will reopen on Saturday the 4th at 8 a.m. We have actually several activities planned to provide fun for the entire family, so we hope you can join us. We're also in the process of updating our website, so you can visit us on Facebook. And we're looking for new members. We're always looking for new members. With fresh ideas. So come join us at one of our meetings, the 4th Tuesday of each month, starting in September at the Radisson Hotel. It starts at 6:30, and we'll be glad to buy you dinner. The other item I wanted to mention is come this fall, the Lions Club will be holding a similar country fair with an apple theme. And we'll be back to provide you more information as we get closer to that event. So,
Great. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I'd just like to add that if you do go to our website, we're in the process of updating it as I speak. And it's, you just look for us under Chelmsford Lions Club USA. If you go to Chelmsford Lions Club, it shows up as in London. So you have to make sure you put USA on there.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
That's good to know. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have Lynn Marcella to come up and discuss the July 4th parade. All right. Dressed festively.
Good evening. Yes, I did.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. Just a reminder for everybody that the parade is this Saturday. Starts at 10 a.m., rain or shine. The roads will be closed down at 9 o'clock, so anybody that's participating in the parade needs to be up to McCarthy by 9. We do have shuttle buses available from Summer Street. Anybody that's in the parade can park over there. The shuttle buses will get them to McCarthy, and then they'll end up at their cars at the end of the parade. The parade is 2 miles long, and I'd just like to say that our committee members have been working very hard year-round. It's not just a day in 4th of July. And our committee members include Tom Boucher, Amanda Camerano, Hank Hamlin, Jeff Hardy, Paul Hardy, Chuck Marcella, Rich McLaughlin, Brian Reedy, Karen Reedy, Rick Romano, Donna Sargent, Dan Sylvia, and Arlene Wood. I'd also like to give a special thanks to Paul Cohen, who has been incredible, and anything we need, he's been fantastic. Colin Spence from the police department has been great in working with us as far as, with the road closures and anything we need with traffic and whatever. And also a special thanks to Gary Persichetti in the DPW, who will be setting up the reviewing stand and everything we need on the common. This year, our parade marshal, I think I mentioned to you the last time I was here, is Matt Scott from Chelmsford Telemedia. And when we were here the last time, we had mentioned that we were going to be honoring our police and fire departments as our hometown heroes. You know, as we all know, they've gone through a lot past year all over the country. And we're very fortunate this year that all of our retired fire chiefs that are living and police chiefs that are living, 4 on each side, will be joining us. So it's quite a tribute to the town and to both departments for all of them to be here. Our singer at the start of the parade is Brian Henderson, and anybody that's heard Brian, he's fantastic. We have sent raffle tickets out to every home in Chelmsford. We've heard that some people haven't received them, so if you have not or you want additional ones, please feel free to see us at the country fair the night before, and then we'll also have them available at the reviewing stand the day of the parade. And we have our cash raffle and also our sports extravaganza raffle. And just a quick thank you to our sponsors. They're the ones that pay for this parade, along with the raffle ticket sales and then the banners that you see hanging in the center. No tax dollars are used for this parade, and we do have to raise $50,000 to $60,000 a year to pay for everything. Our band budget alone this year is almost $40,000. They don't come for nothing. A lot of people think they just come out of the goodness of their heart, but they don't. You know, we have a couple of bands coming from Canada, one from the Cape, and you know, it costs them for their music and their equipment and, you know, travel. So our sponsors this year are the Best Western Plus, Blake Funeral Home, Chelmsford Business Association, Chelmsford Lumber Company, Dolan Funeral Home, Enterprise Bank, Ferreira Towing, Harrington Wine and Liquors, Lockheed Martin, Lowell 5, Lowell Sun, Northern Bank, Charles Parley Farm, Republic Services, 3E Moving, Trinity EMS, and Waste Management. So we appreciate everything that they do for us, along with the people of Chelmsford that buy these raffle tickets. Our floats this year, we've got probably about 15 floats, and I still got a couple of applications in today, so they're still coming. We are giving prize money to the top 4 floats, which is $300 for each of the top 4 floats. And we'd also like to thank our judges this year who are from the Littleton 300th Anniversary Parade. We were judges at their parade in the fall, so we asked them if they would be judges. So it's kind of somebody from out of the area, so there's no favoritism shown, hopefully. And a reminder to everybody, I know my office is on North Road, and I saw some chairs out there today, and that's just like, please don't. Between the sidewalks being blocked and the DPW needs to do the lawn and all that kind of thing to clean up and get ready for the 4th, you know, we appreciate them just waiting another couple of days. I think that's all I have. If anybody wants to apply at the last minute, go to our website, which is chelmsfordparade.org, or you can send us an email, chelmsfordparade@aol.com. We're doing our lineup tomorrow evening, and we'll take applications last minute. We do have some people that just show up the day of the parade, but everybody is welcome.
Oh, great.
Any questions?
I don't think any questions.
You're all going to
but
be there, right?
We will all be there, and thank you to the entire committee and everyone in town, all the employees who help. You throw a
Yes.
fantastic parade, and people really come from all over
It's
to
a
view it.
it's a
so-
big event. It's fabulous. We all enjoy doing it too. It's great.
All right, we do have one question.
Are the police chief and fire chiefs going to ride? Or are they gonna-
Yes, the town has, I think it's a 1935 Maxim fire truck. I might have the year wrong. That the 4 fire chiefs are going to ride in, and then the 4 police chiefs. We have 2 blue convertibles
Oh, good.
that they'll be riding in. And it's just so wonderful that they can all be here.
Yeah.
You know, when we first came up with the idea, and all of them, one's coming from Florida. He's actually arriving tomorrow and staying at my house. So, that's a good thing. Any other questions or anything? Otherwise, we
No,
will see you on the 3rd and 4th of July.
We will
We
definitely
appreciate
see you.
everybody's support again. It's just a wonderful affair. Oh, one more thing if I can say. This particular committee has been doing this. This is our 8th year. And we've decided that we're going to do 10, which will be the town's 50th. And then we're done. So, if there's anybody out there that would like
Say
to
that
get
now,
involved,
then.
we would like to start training people because there's a lot to it. You know, it's not difficult, but there's a lot of little details. You know, and we take July off, but we start again in August, and we do a wrap-up meeting, and, you know, then we kind of take the holidays off a little, but it's really a year-round thing. There's just a lot of details to it, but nothing's difficult. So if there was an organization or a group of people that felt as though they want to get involved, you know, we've got 2 years to train them. So we hope to have a group trained, and then, we're setting up an endowment that we can turn money over to the town and say, here you go, here's enough for another year or two of parade. So,
I'm sure we can help find some volunteers here in
Yeah.
town. Some people would be willing to
It would be great.
participate, so.
I mean, some of us may hang around a little, but
I don't know if this is a question for you or for the Lions Club people, but as far as the town inspects all those setups, right? As far as, right?
Yes.
Because I had someone come over to me last year, and the high school has the dunk tank, and right next to it, they had Christmas lights dangling right near the tank.
that's you guys, I think.
So you might want to,
We'll check that out.
yeah.
And that could be a
Added
little,
feature.
yeah.
Hey,
Well, it was,
they do cancel
Sharpen the aim.
the tank if there's thunder and lightning out.
yeah, well, that's good, but they shouldn't have
Reasonable.
the lights hanging so close to the tub.
All right,
And like I said, that came from a resident in town, so.
we'll keep that in
Because he
mind.
was the dunker last year.
No, I wasn't. You do
I
the
was
dunk?
in there. Yeah, I've done it before.
All set?
Yes. I
Thank
think
you.
so.
See you all.
Thank you again, Lynn.
Saturday, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
We will see you then. We'll now move into open session. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? For any reason? No one for open session? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to committee vacancies. Selectman Joyce?
Okay, committee vacancies as of 6/29/2015. We have one opening on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. We have one opening on the Board of Appeals. We have one opening, another opening on the Board of Appeals, different expiration date. Community Action Committee, we have one. Cultural Council, we have two openings. Economic Development Commission, we have one opening. Finance Committee, there is two openings. Great Brook Farm Advisory Committee is one opening. Land Management Subcommittee, there is one opening. Public Celebrations Committee, there's two openings. Recycling Committee, there's two openings. And Tree Committee, there is one opening. If you're interested, please go to the town website, www.townofchelmsford.us, and there is information up there about the openings, as well as an application form that you can fill out and send to the town manager at tmoffice@townofchelmsford.us.
Great, thank you, Bob. We'll now move on to agenda item number 5, our reports and presentations. First, we have John Souza about vacating a foreclosure at 39 Dunshire Drive. Evening, John.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You should have a memo in your packet just from me dated June 17th, just describing the foreclosure case and the collection steps in detail that we went through with this property. And I'm pleased to report that in early June, we received full payment of all taxes, interest, and fees on the property located at 39 Dunshire Drive. So in light of the full payment, I respectfully request that the board consider voting the motion that you have before you. And then there's just a signature sheet that, and if you need a blank signature sheet, I can pass one of those around.
We signed
Oh,
it.
signed it. Oh, great. Thank you.
We have it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to vacate the final judgment covering the tax taking made against Joseph D. Arena and Jean M. Arena for unpaid taxes covering the property at 39 Dunshire Drive, North Chelmsford, upon payment of all taxes, interest, and charges due as provided under Mass General Law 60, paragraph 69, is that?
69.
Section 69.
I'll second that.
Second, is there any questions or debate on the motion? All right, hearing none, I will enter, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
John, thank you very much. Next, we have Dave McLaughlin, the Chair of the Oak Hill Study Committee, to give us a presentation and update. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Evening.
You're going to go all the way through that to the slides at the end, I think.
Okay.
The Oak Hill Site Plan Committee has delivered their final site plan development report to the board, and it's in your packets. And what I've done is just take a small abbreviation from that report and have a few slides so you can take a look at what we're planning to what we're planning to do up there.
Right. Move on to the next one.
I think most of you know that Oak Hill is a 66-acre parcel of open space up in North Chelmsford. What you may not be totally aware of is where it is located. It's a piece of land here that is landlocked by the old Swain Road landfill on this side. Swain Road goes down this way. Dunstable Road goes up this way. Ledge Road is over here. Congregational Church in North Chelmsford owns a parcel of land here. Scotty Hollow is located, the condominiums are located here. The Sportsman Club has this parcel. There's a private parcel owned by the Gourmets. And there's a piece in here which is currently known as the unknown parcel because nobody can prove its ownership, although the Sportsman's Club over the years has paid real estate taxes on it. So the assumption, I think, in law would be that it probably is theirs. Town meeting authorizes site plan to be moved or transferred to conservation in April of 2013, based upon a site plan development program being compiled. The committee consists of 5 people, or 5 slots. Pat Wojcik is chairman of the committee. Paul Gleason is on the committee. Jim Murray is on the committee. I'm on the committee, and at this point in time, there is 1 vacancy. The town meeting vote made it specifically clear that this parcel was going to be used for conservation, and under the state conservation regulations, that means it can only be used for passive recreation. Simple definition of passive recreation is walking, hiking, pedal biking, but not motorized biking. And that will be the purpose of this parcel. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get into the site. If you'll recall on that last slide, it's landlocked. Right now there are 3 entrances to the site. One is privately over from the Scotty Hollow condominiums. The other is walking down the end of Oak Hill Road, which is off Ledge Road, is a residential, very small residential street. Years ago, I think Mr. Carey thought about that might have been his entrance to Oak Hill. It just didn't work, and there's also a significant piece of wetlands at that site. People also get into Oak Hill now by walking from Deep Brook Reservation off of Dunstable Road and cross over private property and walk into Oak Hill. So after having looked at all that, we felt that the best place to have a location for entrance would be at the Swain Road landfill site off of Swain Road. And what we have right now as designed is there'll be a parking area here. The parking will be for 8 cars. There'll be 1 handicap spot. It will be made of impervious material, probably street grindings from what we get quite a bit of these days, and we'll just fill it in. We located the parking here near Swain Road so that police on their patrols can at least easily look into the parking lot. Some of the older conservation reservations, people get in the parking lot, they're out of sight, drinking and often occurs. So we consciously put the parking out by Swain Road. There will be parking stops on the 8 places. DPW will have to move the gate that currently exists. If any of you have been up there recently, there is a chain link fence that is locked that prevents trucks from going into the sand and salt shed, which is located here and here. It's our intention to move that gate down to the end of the parking. It will be locked and accessed by DPW, but there'll be a small enough entrance in the gate that people can walk through to get onto the trail to get into Oak Hill. We'll place a sign probably out here, and we'll place a kiosk with signage about the reservation itself, because as you will see in a future slide, it's a fairly long walk that goes in to Oak Hill. Typical signs that we use at most of our reservations is a granite sign. It would look like this. And then we also now have kiosks at all of our entrances where we have maps, have various signs asking people to pick up after their dogs, asking people to keep their dogs on leashes, and also post the land use regulations for the reservations. The trail to Scotty Hollow Brook, which is the stream that runs from Scotty Hollow condominiums down the property through the Sportsman's Club and then into Swain Pond, down by Dunstable Road. It's going to be 1,800 feet long. It will go down next to a gully which is right now between the old landfill, which is the proposed site for solar panels, and the existing salt and sand shed, which is still going to be utilized going forward. So we will build a trail down here and then go down along the property line and into down to the stream. The trail will not be handicapped accessible. The federal regulations say any new facilities, you should attempt to make them handicapped accessible, but there's more than a 5-degree slope going from this point all the way down to the stream, which makes it very difficult for people who are handicapped to use it. So it will not be handicapped accessible. We will use mass trail guidelines and best practices in building the trail. There will need to be additional work in this area. I think it'll be on the next slide. I think we'll show it. Yeah, this is the way the site exists presently. This is a gully. Over here on this side is where the solar farm will be. This is where the salt shed is over here. This gully takes runoff from the parking lot and the driveway that goes into the salt shed. It has not been maintained over the years, and there's been pretty severe erosion. So we'll have to fix this gully to handle any runoff. I think some of you may remember this. Very often we see a lot of white goods that get stored here at the end of the driveway. We're planning to build the trail on the side of the hill going down to the stream. This salt shed area is in disrepair and needs to be improved. The fencing around the salt shed area has pretty much fallen apart. It will have to be secured because we don't want people walking into the salt shed area. And the sand hopefully can be pulled away. It has over the years. Because it's been piled up, it has eroded down. The trail itself will be cut into the side here. It should not be a particularly difficult project. Down at the end of the, as you go down well, you can't see it here, but down in this area here, as it goes down the hill, the trail will cross the gully, and we'll build a small walkway to cross the gully. Should be pretty straightforward. Some trees will have to be, not many, but some trees will have to be cut down as you approach the stream. The hill down to the stream will be fairly sharp, maybe 20 degrees. At the stream, and Paul, if you could go to the next slide, the next one, these are a little bit out of order. But those of you who are familiar with Oak Hill, there is an existing trail pattern at Oak Hill, which right now goes down to the stream. This is Scotty Hollow Stream here. This is where the stream crossing will be. So the trail will come from the salt shed area and go down here and cross right there. And that's probably the best spot. Those of you who are familiar, the stream is pretty steep banked on both sides. It'll be high enough off the water level that I don't think we're going to have trouble with washouts. If you could go back to the other slide, Paul. This is Jim Murray's depiction of the stream crossing. Jim designed was good enough to design the bridge for us and build up a bill of materials which we have available. Jim and the DPW and hopefully some volunteers will construct this. We'll have to build it off-site. We'll have to get it into the site, 1,800 feet in. Whether it'll be done in pieces or not, we're not sure. It'll be 5 feet wide. It'll be 18 feet long. It will need, and that's in part because the sides of the banks of the stream are so steep. We need to make sure we get it up high enough and get it away from the stream so it's got a permanent location. We'll have to put riprap on either side to prevent erosion, and we'll use pieces of granite that the DPW has access to, and we'll actually use those as footings on either side.
It's a good-looking bridge, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is.
Is that in the area where they do a lot of skeet shooting, David?
If you go to the next, I'll go to the next one, Paul, with the trails, I'll show you.
It's off from there.
And this area, this is where the Sportsman's Club is. The rifle ranges are about 1,500, easily 1,500 feet from here. The trail and the stream crossing will be fairly close to the property line of the town and of the Lowell Sportsman's Club. Their shooting is always goes in this direction. They also, up in here, they have a bow and arrow range. Of all of the sites that are in town, that site is the best marked site available. They have no trespassing signs. They have safety signs that they post about every 100 feet in from their property line. And of all the abutters, we spent more time talking and working with the Lowell Sportsman's Club because they want to stay there. And frankly, there is a fairly good amount of activity. I don't think we're going to get significantly more pedestrian activity in Oak Hill than perhaps we have now. As Laura will know, a lot of the neighbors up in that area use Oak Hill on a fairly regular basis. We will not need to change any of the trailways. The trails have been there for years. People have figured out what's the best way to walk on Oak Hill, so why change them? With one exception, this is very steep right here. So we will build a small switchback so that people who don't want to go up a 35 to 40-foot slope will be able to go left and then go at an angle, and it will be less severe for them. That's the only trail work that we'll have to do. We will put up trail signs so that they're all marked. The trails will be named. Don't have any names yet. The trails will each have different colors. We'll post when you're on conservation property and when you're leaving, because as I said, there are private property around here. Go to the next one, Paul. We've had a number of discussions about getting easements to use on the land, because right now, the trails cross the Gourmet's property about here, and then cross this unknown parcel to get into Deep Brook. There's trail activity from Oak Hill onto the church property, because up here are where the quarries are that are beautiful, full of water now, and a lot of people will walk back and forth. And right now, a number of people from Scotty Hollow will walk in onto Oak Hill. So we've had conversations over the last year and a half without any success. On the other hand, the neighbors are good neighbors. The Gourmets would like, as some of you may know, have expressed some interest in selling the property, but the town has not shown any interest. And so we will make sure people know when they are leaving town property and going on private property. As I understand the law, if a person posts his land as private property, then he assumes some liability. So it's very conceivable that people who own private property will not want to post it, because then they will not have the liability. Now, historically, it has not been a problem at all. Church gets access to they use their property in the springtime around Easter. They have sunrise services. I think that's about the only time of the year that their organization crosses Oak Hill to get there. It's not part of Oak Hill, but this is also a piece of town land right here. If there was ever an opportunity to acquire that and put these together, it would make a nice parcel. And if it was And if we could kind of formalize in here a bit, we all have great ideas, right? Then Deep Brook to Oak Hill would be would be about almost 80 acres of conservation land. And then, okay, we will continue, I think the town will continue to have discussions on easements. Not a significant problem. This land here will continue to be owned by the town. In discussions with the town manager, the parking lot and the trail into Oak Hill probably should be deeded to the Conservation Commission, so it's all one parcel. And a deed makes more sense, from what I understand, than an easement. But the Conservation Commission will need to be able to have access to this sometime in the future when we have selectmen who aren't as nice and wonderful as you are. They might say, we don't want you to use it anymore. So we would like that parcel. It's a 5-foot trail. It's a parking lot with a driveway, so it's not significant amount of width. It is a fairly good length. The other thing we have to work with the town is going to be what kind of security is there going to be between the trail and the solar farm? I assume there's going to be some kind of fencing there. I don't know, but we don't want people who are using the trail wandering up on the solar farm. And the last slide is the budget, which is about $28,000. DPW is going to has volunteered to do a significant amount of the work for us. Some of the materials are just acquired materials. We've got this is a historical number for. We might get bids for that as a historical number we've had in the past. We've got a couple of kiosks lying around. We may have to build one more. We've got a lot of signage left over from other reservations that we can use. The town we would like, and DPW has agreed to get a survey of the lot lines to be very specific as to where the private property is and where the conservation land is. So that's really the big items are the digging out the stream, moving the gate. What's not in here is the cost to secure the salt shed and the sand shed. Because we didn't consider that to be part of the Oak Hill conservation budget.
Right.
28.8 is what the budget is. So the next step is to ask you to approve the plan. Once you approve the plan, the committee will begin to execute it. We'll need to get conservation approval because some of the work is within 200 feet of the stream. So this committee will have to go before conservation and file what's called a notice of intent to allow the group to build the bridge over the stream. That's really the only area where conservation is. And as far as we know, there are no other permits that are required. Then we'll work with DPW to get the work done. If the work is not completed by July 1st of 2016, the land is conveyed to conservation anyhow. Up until that time, it is still town land. The site plan committee will try to get as much of the site development work done as possible. If it's not complete, then the Conservation Commission will finish it.
Right.
So that's it. Any questions? Can I answer anything?
Great. Well, first, thank you and your committee for all of your hard work on this. I think it really meets the intent of what town meeting set out to do. And certainly very pleased, but I'm sure we have a few questions from members of the board. Any questions, Bob?
You said you're going to need, maybe one more kiosk?
We normally put one at each parking lot, and we have one. We'll put it up, and then we'll get another one built, so keep one in reserve. That's what I meant, Bob.
Have you ever thought about using the Shobotech for that?
Not in the Shobotech, but Scouts have helped us build kiosks. We've got a bill of materials, we've got a set of plans, so we know what's needed, and we can just give them to somebody.
Okay, good. And answer to your question, the bylaw on the solar farm is that it will have fencing. I don't know, is it
And I
6 or 8
assume
feet?
the fencing will be on the other side of the gully from where we're gonna
Yeah.
put the trail.
Probably would be.
Only has to go
Okay.
around.
Looks good.
Thanks.
Good.
I
Other
just had-
questions? Or-
I had a question.
Yes, Laura, I'm
Dave.
sorry.
There's a significant chunk of land that runs along the highway it's almost like the other half of the property. Is there any plan to develop that in the future? I can see those light
You mean,
red lines are the
down here?
existing trail. Exactly. Because you kind of...
see, this is Oak Hill Road here. And there is, most of Oak Hill is uplands, but there's a significant amount of wetlands right in this area here. There is a
It's
half-used
an
trail.
ATV
Right,
trail
that
that
goes
out
up to
that way.
here. When there was talk of billboards, there was mentioning that
Yeah, that would be.
that might be where a billboard would go. Of course, that's dead. And that's Route 3, so the only access would be. We're going to leave that alone, because the existing trails are not, we have to discourage ATVs, but unless we're going to have a cop out there, it's pretty hard to.
Oh, so...
You're right, the ATVs are here, and ATVs love to cross the stream right here, where we're going to put the bridge.
So we'll be posted anyways. And it was, I mean, I definitely applaud your effort in reaching out to the abutters and trying to work through the easements. It's unfortunate we weren't able to acquire those, but I think it's good that we'll still at least be able to, residents will be allowed to use the property as long as it's posted, so. Other questions or comments? Oh,
Just had-
Janet,
I had
yes.
a quick question. So we're gonna have one handicap space, yet it's not really handicap accessible. Do we have to put a sign that kind of warns that there's steep
There are
slopes?
different standards for handicapped accessible than for the trail itself. I mean, you can have handicapped people who have a handicapped spot who will walk the trail.
Okay,
But we don't have to design it to federal standards.
okay. And we don't have to put any kind of
No.
signage warning of steep slopes or anything like that? Okay.
One of
I suppose you could though, maybe
Yeah,
as,
but we-
to your point.
We've been beginning to be concerned about signage in general. You can't believe how many signs people want to put up, and it's,
Right.
you have to do.
Well, I was even looking
There
at
are a
that
lot already.
kiosk,
Right.
and there were...
And that doesn't say anything about handicapped accessible
I
either.
was
And poison
surprised how
ivy
many
and
of the
all,
signs.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
signs at all the kiosks, yeah.
Just one more question. So, what about the upkeep on the trails? Because, you know, there's a lot of discussion about, you know,
It's hard.
do you plan to have dedicated folks, or you'll just kind of keep an eye on it? And
If we can find we've, over the years, we've tried to find people who want to kind of adopt a reservation. And a couple of the reservations have people, but one of the things that occurs is people leave town,
Yeah.
and then you're going to replace them. The answer to your question is yes, it's been very difficult. We keep asking for more volunteers. We have not been particularly successful in getting more volunteers. Chris Garahan and myself have opened up new discussions with costs. Maybe that will develop. Maybe it won't, don't know, have to see. It's not easy.
okay,
It will give us about, with this site now, we'll have about 1,000 acres of conservation land in Chelmsford,
wow,
and we will have 9 reservations where we actually call them reservations. There's a lot of conservation land that's not a reservation. And this will be for once, not for once, but this will be significant addition to the people in North Chelmsford, because Deep Brook's nice, but it's pretty small.
thank you.
Great. If there are no more questions, George, I was going to say I'd entertain a motion to approve the Oak Hill Site Development Plan as presented.
So moved.
Second.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? It's unanimous. Dave, thank you again, and to your committee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great. And good luck moving forward with the implementation. Next, Evan Blansky.
Cover for Evan.
Oh, you're going to cover her, okay. To discuss the Crosstown Connect Community Compact.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to bring the board up to speed, or notify the board of the new opportunity under the Governor Baker administration. And I'm not necessarily seeking a vote this evening, but just beginning a dialogue. As you can see in the date, the correspondence from the governor's office, it's June 11th. So again, this is just out in the last couple of weeks. But the administration is rolling out what they're calling the Community Compact Agreement Program, in which it's sort of the state trying to implement best practices in communities across the Commonwealth, which the community chooses to enter into a particular compact, and then the state attempts to provide some resources towards implementing the best practice for the community. I've given you some background information in terms of what's available under the program. It's pretty broad. Basically, it's sort of a self-selection thing where a community examines itself and decides what areas it wishes to address areas for improvement, and then has a 2-year period in partnership with the state. And why a community would want to participate in this program is there's no funding commitment or obligation from the state, but if you participate in the program, you get extra points or preference on grants and grant programs, incentives to help support the program. And the areas that our opportunities go from as broad as education, energy and the environment, IT, meaning information technology, regionalization, transportation, and so forth. And a number of the areas, if we looked at, in terms of we, meaning myself, Evan, and others, we've achieved a lot of, accomplishments over the years in terms of, issues, as we know, in terms of, our commitments to education and also energy and so forth. The one area that we think is trending, and this is sort of what we put as a draft for consideration, would be this pending water resource management issue that's confronting all communities in the Commonwealth. We've heard from the Water District about the water withdrawal limits, the SWIMI, the water withdrawal and the challenges they're having going forward. And we know we're just waiting for the final release on the town side of the stormwater management guidelines from the EPA. And so we're sort of thinking as an initial approach might be to do some kind of comprehensive water resource management effort in which the town perhaps may even partner with the Water District to implement conservation standards in terms of how we deal with management of stormwater runoff, treatment and reusage of our wastewater, conservation of water efforts, and so that's sort of where our initial thinking is at this point. I don't know if you saw the administration just announced last week, they just had their first 3 communities develop compacts under this program. I think it was Agawam, Worcester, and Gardner, I think, were the first 3. So we just wanted to inform the board of the initiative. Again, there's no deadline. The applications will be accepted at any time. And again, we welcome any suggestions regarding the suggestion that I just mentioned and/or others, because you can do more than one compact. And I imagine our neighboring communities and other districts and so forth around the Commonwealth will be gearing up in the weeks and months ahead. What we wanted to do was again is sort of look at something that's beneficial to the community and really can push us into an area that we think would have long-term benefit not only to the town but also perhaps provide best practices across the Commonwealth. So I just wanted to let the board know about this program, and I would imagine perhaps by the end of the summer that we would probably have something formalized and go in. The application is a 1-page application. It's not sophisticated. It's really what they're trying to do is again develop best practices and allow communities the flexibility to basically develop programs that I think they then can put out there across the Commonwealth, and hopefully other communities can learn from as a way of advancing municipal government across the Commonwealth.
Great. Well, it's certainly a good idea. I'm glad we're taking advantage of this with at least one plan right now moving forward, and we can see how it goes and how the state reacts and responds to it, and maybe we can develop some additional programs moving forward over the next few years. Any questions for Paul this evening? Yes.
Just have a quick question. So we're only allowed to make one submission for this cycle? What's the cycle? How, what's the length of that cycle?
There's no deadline, and you can enter into a compact at any time.
Okay. So we can enter
right multiple, yeah, exactly.
The only reason I bring this up is under education.
Mm-hmm.
I see early education, and I would think the school committee would be very very interested in that one.
And even the collaboration with higher education, we heard that as a goal from the school committee as well. So that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
We may see some that then may come out of the school department as well.
Okay, and also, tying back to later in the meeting, your goals, the regionalization and shared services best practice, which I think would be of interest to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? No? All right. Well, why don't we move right on to town manager reports?
Okay, I just have a few items this evening, and I'll try to go through them rather quickly. The first one is on the municipal energy aggregation plan, and just to familiarize those who may be watching, that's basically where the town would purchase the electricity in bulk for the residents to get a better price than the default rate under National Grid. I'm pleased to notify the board formally here, as well as the community, that we have received our initial approval from the Department of Energy Resources for our aggregation plan, which is the first step in the process. And we received that on June 24th. And the next step, which is a more lengthy step, is going to be the review by the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities. That we expect will take several months. We understand that there is a large number of aggregation plans submitted to the Department of Public Utilities, and it does take some time. So we obviously are getting more informed as we're going through this process, and we're pleased with the quick turnaround from the DOER, but we know that there are many ahead of us, and we don't anticipate that we will get approval from DPU for several months. So we don't anticipate it'll be in time for this fall season. It'll probably be next spring. But the good thing is we are advancing it, and I wanted to let the board know about that. Under the another quick matter, which again is sort of annual around this time of the year, we did receive our fund balances on the Town Center Underground Utility Project. That's a report from Verizon and a report from National Grid. On the Verizon front, the good news is as of the end of last calendar year, the deficit from the initial first phase of the project is down to $384,000. They received $146,000 in surcharge revenue the last calendar year, and so if your math stays the same, probably within 2 years or so, they will have basically funded the entire first portion of the underground project from Verizon's perspective, which would then lead us to have a conversation with them about beginning phase 2, which would bring it from the corner of the common by the town hall down through the center, across through the center towards the library. That's where it stands at this point in terms of the project. The report from National Grid is pretty stable because, as the board knows, we did not collect. We've suspended the surcharge, so the surcharge revenue for the last year continued to be zero. And right now, there still remains a $3.5 million balance in the National Grid portion of the project. So they're ready to go at any time, but unfortunately, under the state laws that govern this program, you cannot expend the National Grid money towards the Verizon portion of the project. So we're basically continue to be in a holding pattern, and that's because under this program, under the state statutes, the surcharge revenue for Verizon only comes from their landlines. And as one knows, the revenue and activity from landlines has diminished over time with the popularity of wireless phones, and so that explains why we're sort of in this holding pattern that wasn't anticipated when this project began. I think probably when Bob was first on the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
That far back. So anyway, the good news is we're progressing, but again, it'll be a couple years out before I think we can reasonably have the discussion with Verizon in terms of commencing with the next phase of the project, because as they made clear to us 2 years ago, they are not going to begin a next phase until they've been fully paid from their first phase.
Do we have sort of the estimate of the Verizon portion of a next phase, just very ballpark?
Yeah, it's over $1 million.
Over $1 million.
Their portion.
It's not $3.5 million, but that's still
No.
pretty...
And the reason why it's expensive to go through the center, twofold. One is there's water. I mean, we all know about the brook that runs through the center, but that's obviously a challenge that can be met, but has to be done in the center. The other thing is Verizon has significant trunk lines that go through the center down towards Bedford Road, down as you head out that way. And if you ever look at the amount of lines that are telephone, that's what it is. They got main trunk lines that are beyond the local lines that go that way, and that's why it's expensive for them to do that next phase. And when we did the engineering analysis a couple of years ago, we looked at alternatives when we saw this coming, about even going down Summer Street or even going behind the Oddfellows building. The problem is it doesn't significantly decrease the cost enough to, that could move this along at this point in time.
Right.
Yes.
Who puts the fixtures in the ground, like the big blocks that have all the, is that National Grid?
Yeah, that's the utilities, yeah.
Well, why couldn't that be done in advance?
Well, because you want to do it all at one time, because you're going to get the efficiencies of doing it. But you also they're not going to do anything until they know there's a commitment to do the entire project, because they're not going to sink costs in, even if.
It's not their money.
Yeah, but they're carrying the money.
Yeah.
It's just like they're carrying the deficit from the first phase right now, and they don't want to be in that
It would seem that
position.
they could pipe everything, not put the Verizon
Right.
pipes in.
Right, but again, the efficiencies of when they're out there excavating is,
Right,
you get the
right.
line open, and also Comcast puts their line in as well for cable, but their cost is minimal, because again, they're just putting a conduit for.
Verizon will put fiber optic in,
Right, they do have their FiOS line as well,
Yeah. That
Um,
would go under.
so.
yeah.
Right. Any other questions for Paul?
Okay.
All right. That's a
All right,
good
the next item I'll just touch quickly upon is I wanted to formally notify the board, because I think I mentioned this at a couple meetings back. We have submitted an application under the Municipal Energy Technical Assistance Grant application to assist with the possible replacement of the heating system at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts. As we've noted in the past, that building employs electric heat pumps, which are inefficient and consume a large amount of energy. And we're looking to see if it's possible to replace that with a more energy efficient system. And so obviously we would get a $12,500 grant, technical assistance grant, to explore what may be possibly be done with that site. And we're pretty confident we'll get that funding, because there's an ample amount of funding under this program. And so we're hopeful to come back with you at a near meeting to let you know. And at least that will then give us an understanding and some ability perhaps to address the energy cost, electricity cost problem at the CCA.
Right. Okay. Did you have a question, Jay? Okay. I didn't want to cut you off.
No,
Yeah, I don't
go
want to
ahead.
Okay.
Is part of that technical assistance grant going to be requesting that funding be used to potentially apply for other grants, like historical grants and things like that? Can we have that person also apply for funding if they identify it?
Right, exactly, right. We want to look for other grant sources to do that project.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure. All right, any other questions about the grant?
How much was that system that we put in?
I'd have to look. I know it was the famous value engineering where they. I'd have to go back and look at what that cost. That's going back now 4 or 5 years. I'd have to go in and look at what that was done. Again, it works. The problem is electric heat, as we know, is expensive.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, what's the life of a system like that? 20 years?
It'll be 20 years. Yeah.
Probably
So
about
would we
5.
sell it? Or what do we do to
Yeah, you could
recoup
see
some
if
of our
you could
money?
see if you could recoup some of the components of it. They're also looking at the insulation issue of the walls as well. Again, trying to see what can be done to minimize the energy costs there, because we as we know, we don't see that situation up at the Chelmsford Community Center, and it's just because of the addition in that area of the building that it's just expensive with electric heat.
Yeah, do they run electric?
No, it's gas.
They run gas up there?
Yeah, with heat pumps. Yeah.
Yeah. We could certainly sell it in a surplus auction or something
Yeah.
like that and recoup some of the cost. Someone would buy it, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing I just
Hopefully
want.
they're going to look at ceiling fans. You and I have been
Yes,
talking
yeah.
about that since I think I first met
Right.
you. There's something to be said in the South when you move around the air. It helps cool the space. And I know historically it may not look as great, but it's a nice fix.
Yeah, something to think about too.
The other thing I wanted to touch upon is I wanted to let people know that we're about ready, the town beginning the assessors property townwide revaluation program. Notices are going out on the tax bills that go out at the end of this month to residents. We'll also be utilizing the telephone notification system, and also people will be clearly identified as people working on this project. So I guess, one, to let people know this will be starting in July, but also if anybody has any concerns, don't let anybody into your house. I mean, if you've got any concern, notify the police department, and then they can verify or send somebody to make sure, because we just don't want somebody to be, abusing the system for improper activities as a result of that issue. So we wanted to let people know that you will be seeing the notice in the tax bills, and people will be getting phone calls from the town on as they go through neighborhoods. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is it going to be mandatory that residents let the assessors in their homes?
No, one does not. One does not have to let the assessor into their home. However, as I think that was explained at the town meeting, if you don't let the assessor into their home, they are going to assume that you've got a nice home, and also if you don't allow them to come in, then you're going to forgo your rights under abatement. In terms of that ability. So no, one does not have to. But again, the whole purpose of the system is to have fairness, and we don't create the rules, we follow them, but the idea is that it's a system based on property valuation, and so if one doesn't allow somebody in, then the idea is that somebody shouldn't be rewarded for for that activity because it's meant to be a system based on property value. So they will assume that your property is in excellent condition and so forth. Because I don't know, I think they don't know any other way, and obviously it's all governed by state regulations, because we can't send out a property valuation or a tax bill without state approval. But those are the guidelines that are administered by the state. So they will assume the best if you don't let them in your home.
Bob?
I think some people have asked me about this, and let's say they finish their basement and they never pull the permit. Would that be something that would add to their assessment, or are basements exempt from improvements? That's what I was always under the condition. No, Sam?
Do you want to?
They will they will note the finished basement in the field card, but as you know, it's not included in your square footage.
Right.
But they will note that. The problem really becomes if you do work like that, it really becomes a problem when you sell your property, because then the future owner is not going to want to take on the liability for work that may not have been properly performed, and that's when we've had some instances where people have to go in and they have to open up the work, or in some places tear it out because it wasn't properly done. I mean, we had an active case, unfortunately, on Littleton Road, which was a result of a minor fire, which created a lot of concern in the offices and some hardship, because work when that took place, they found out there was some work performed without permits, and again, it's code issues, because the code is meant to provide public safety, and so there were some issues with the property where they had to go in and open up some walls and bring in an architect and do other work to certify the work that was done there. So it's that's the reason why they have inspections and codes is to protect the safety of the public.
Mr. Chase, if you do have a comment, can I just ask that you come up so the people at home can hear? If you could state your name. Just make sure.
Sam Chase, Chairman of the Board of Assessors. There will be those situations, as the town manager has described, but there also will be situations where the inspectors go into the home and they find situations that could potentially lower the value of your property. The most common situation that we run into is people filling in swimming pools, and they don't tell us. And they may go 3 or 4 years, and then suddenly they realize they're being assessed for a pool, then they'll call the office. And we send somebody out, and there's no pool. There's no retroactive credit, but we adjust the value going forward. So there will be those situations where we go in, actually, and we find that things haven't been recorded properly, work has been done we don't know, and that'll affect your valuation upward. But there will also be those situations where it will be demonstrated that you're overvalued. So that's the way it will work. And primarily the exercise is to validate the square footage. That's the main purpose, but of course other things will be noticed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. All right.
Okay, the next thing I want to quickly touch upon pertains to the Adams Library Carriage House. I put in your packets a copy of the draft conceptual plan. One, the project is moving along. This draft conceptual plan, at this point, has basically been agreed to by the library trustees, the Friends of the library director, the building committee, and so forth. So in a rather, brief period of time, they have a conceptual plan that would place the proposed carriage house along Bartlett Street, as you not too far from the former location of the Dutton House. And then as you can see, there's a parking area that is similar to where the parking is now, but as you can see, the parking area does not face Bartlett Street. So again, there'll be landscaping. So the whole idea, and everyone's mindful of the fact that they want it to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible, because we recognize the view as one comes, along Bartlett Street. And also the big part of the project is the parking that's now, if you're facing the Adams Library to the right, you have the parking lot which was next to the portion between there and the former Dutton House. That parking on that side where the Dutton House was parallel parking. Now you can see on the plan, you have expanded parking there with 14 spaces that is perpendicular.
So it's that same area.
So it's that same area will now have, instead of you parking, in the same direction as the library building, you'll now be parking perpendicular, which gives you more parking there. And then beyond that parking, which is where the old Dutton House was located, you'll have this large green space. And that really is the initiative of the project, is to provide an outdoor green space for library programs and so forth. And then as you know, the topography of that, as it goes down, you would then have the carriage house at the level where the current staff parking area is off of Bartlett Street. So they're trying to take advantage of the topography and, again, meeting the goal of great green space. So, again, the building committee is meeting tomorrow evening. What will happen now is that they will then present this for site plan approval for the planning board over the summer, as well as Conservation Commission, because they are in with the wetland jurisdiction area for that brook that runs by the library and then obviously goes into the center. So you'll see permitting over the summer. They're developing the plans and specifications. They are looking for a prefabricated building if one is suitable in appearance. And then the goal would be to have the construction begin in the fall and hopefully have the carriage house completed by the winter. And therefore by the next year, meaning the spring, you would then have the green space area available for use by library programs. So just wanted to give the board and the community an update that, and again, if people are interested, the building committee is meeting tomorrow evening in this room, and then at 6:30, and then they'll meet in July, and then there'll be a meeting in August as the plans are progressing. But the bottom line is, I know people are wondering, well, what's going on with the library site, and as you can see, they have spent the last several weeks developing a conceptual plan that will now go for permit approval and then bid.
Yeah, we call it a conceptual plan, but it's just showing you where the lots are and
Exactly.
stuff like
So that's what
that.
they're
Now,
going
what
to...
about a plan of what it's going to look like?
That's
because-
where they're going. That's where they're going to go now. They're
We took CVS and,
right.
the other project, we made
Yes.
them do things.
Yeah.
The CVS and the one behind it, the new one, Stop and Shop one.
Yep.
We made them do certain things to make it match. And if this is just going to be a box,
Oh, it's not. No, believe me. You're dealing with the library trustees, and I think what they fully appreciate now with the Dutton House removal of how much visibility they have at that site.
Yeah.
And so they are committed to having an appropriate building appearance. And that's what they're going to be working on over the
have they
months
done
ahead.
anything to
They've looked at a conceptual plan, but again, they want to flush that out, and then that will be going to before the
planning board?
for the planning board, probably by I would say August.
Okay.
Excuse me,
Make sure I go to those meetings.
Yeah.
Paul, the spots along Bartlett Street, it now looks like there'll be an entrance from Bartlett Street.
Yeah.
Do you know if those parking spots will all be library staff only?
Yeah, that's meant to be staff only, because you can see the geographic distance from the parking at the library, which you can see up above by the building, and the green space, and then the parking below. So the parking along Bartlett Street is intended for staff parking only. And then, obviously, the purpose of the carriage house is also for them to do their book sorting and collection. But there will be, from the green space at the library, there will be a crosswalk to Bartlett Park.
Oh, right.
And it's going to be similar to the crosswalks that you see if you go by Kimball's now in Westford, the illuminated crosswalks. And that will be the type there for safety. And also at the other side of the library by Friendly's, that same type of installation will take place. We get the strobes, which we again hope will slow people down and increase their awareness of the crosswalk. And as well as there'll be a sidewalk constructed up from the center, that would allow people to have full pedestrian access all the way around the property. And in fact, there've already been an inquiry from the property owner adjacent, which is the mobile station and the home behind it, about that they're looking to do some improvements to their property. So hopefully at the end of the day, it's an improved area aesthetically as well as improved area for pedestrian access as well.
Right. No, hopefully. The cars do tend to travel a little quickly through there, so it's important to have an illuminated sidewalk and lights. So.
Be nice to have that going over to Fishbones,
Yeah.
to upgrade that.
There is an issue with that.
How much is that cost?
There are a few $1,000s to put those strobes in, and they're usually solar powered and so forth. But the challenge with the Fishbones is the length of that is huge. I mean,
I know, but it's
it's I don't know, it's a challenge.
so dangerous there.
We'll
Kids
look
are
and
on
see what we can
bikes
do.
and
Yeah.
people trying to cross.
Okay.
I mean,
The
it's maybe
strobes
worth
at all
looking at.
violate our signage laws?
No,
Bylaws?
I
Because
don't
of
think-
all of the flashing
no,
and...
Years ago, we had Richie Adams, and
Right.
he used to just, he used to just stand there and write tickets all day.
Right.
That sounds
That was before the crosswalk.
before my time.
The final item on my list is the list of qualified officers and designated backup signatory. Under the town bylaws, I'm required annually to provide the board with a list of 3 qualified officers who can be designated to perform the duties of town manager during my temporary absence or disability. And I've given you that list again this year. And you can see it would be our community development director, our public works director, and our finance director. And obviously, for a signatory authority, it would be all but the finance director because he signs the checks. He can't be signing off to the checks. It's a little bit of a change in the past because we have new public safety chiefs. So Chief Murphy, was on the list prior. So I've now put the community development director on in its place. And then the last item, just in terms of information and pertains to the town offices, there's a lot of confusion about the holiday because the 4th of July is on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I wanted to let people know that that the town offices and the library and such will be open on Friday the 3rd. Here it'll be normal business hours till 4 o'clock. The library will be closing, I think, around the same time. They will be closed, obviously, Saturday for the 4th of July, and then Monday the 6th will be open for normal business hours as well. People tend to get confused with the Saturday holidays because they're familiar with the Sunday-Monday holiday law in Massachusetts, that, for example, if the 4th falls on a Sunday, Monday's the legal holiday. There is no Saturday-Friday holiday law. And so what you will see, it's a lot of confusion because banks, for example, will be open on Friday, post office will be doing mail on Friday and so forth. We will be here on Friday as well. We're just seeing different communities are handling things differently. But I just wanted to let people know that we will be here Friday and on Monday. You'll have employees in and out, meaning some employees will be taking those days, but we'll be keeping enough staff to be functional for those 2 days. As a convenience to the public, because what happens, as you know, and it's not a popular time because tax bills go out on the 30th of June, so we do get a lot of inquiries at the beginning of July because it's a new fiscal year, and it's also a period of time where people are also trying to get things done before they go off on vacation.
Right. Yeah.
So we basically will be here on Friday and Monday.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
Can I just ask a question about the acting town manager appointments here? Are those the order that they'd be filled in?
No. The bylaw just says provide you a list of
Okay,
3.
'cause
And in fact, I think
I'd prefer to have finance.
Yeah, no, I think
John Sousa be that person.
Yeah, if I'm disabled, you get to make that choice.
Oh, okay.
But the law says that the bylaw says I have to provide you with a list of 3.
Okay, all right.
And you've always done them alphabetically, if I remember.
Right, exactly. I always did that because I didn't want. Yeah, it's easier for me to not have to list them in
Oh,
any
okay.
rank order as well. So we just
Yes,
list them
by first name.
alphabetically. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next, we have appointments, Conservation Commission.
Yes, I'm pleased to seek your confirmation for the appointment of April Mendez to the Conservation Commission for a term ending June 30th, 2018. She would fill the vacancy created by Bobby Greenwood, who has stepped down from the commission.
I move that we approve the appointment by the town manager of April Mendez to the Conservation Commission for a period ending 6/30/18.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? It's unanimous. Thank you. Next, agenda item number 8, annual performance evaluations and fiscal year 16 compensation. First, we have town accountant Darlene Lucier.
Did they put the,
Yes, it should be. You don't have?
I see Paul, but I don't see.
Maybe.
Do you have one?
Oh, you know, it looks like. Can we get some
I can
copies
get, I'll
of
go get you a
Darlene's?
copy.
I think there's some in that folder.
Yeah, I don't have mine
I
either.
haven't seen it. I didn't print it out.
While he's doing that,
Okay.
I'll do my mea culpa, mea culpa. Sorry for being so late with this. I did meet with Darlene on Friday, which was kind of late, and we went over her goals that were set last year. I don't have goals for next year, and that's something I will do between now and the next meeting.
Okay. We can chat about
And-
that a little bit tonight and help
and
you.
can, of course, the Board of Selectmen should give me suggestions, as Darlene can also give me, directions on
Right.
what's going to be the. Like, you sent me the PDF file.
You want to do the minutes while,
Yeah, we can while we're waiting.
I couldn't.
The PDF
I couldn't open the PDF file on
Ah,
my
sorry.
computer, so I ended up giving it to Paul.
I had a lot of trouble with that too, actually. But, yeah, well, while Paul's grabbing those, why don't we approve the meeting minutes? And
Let's see, move to approve the minutes. Yeah, okay. Move to approve the minutes of April 13th, 2015, as presented.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
I mean, next one.
May 11th.
That was a long one, huh?
May 11th.
Okay, move to approve the minutes, the regular meeting minutes of the Board of Selectmen for May 11th, 2015, as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Well, I remember. Yeah.
Sorry, one more.
The work session minutes of May 18th.
Move that we approve the work session minutes of May 18th, 2015, as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? Okay, it's unanimous.
Yep.
And Bob, it looks like the goals were mostly completed for this past year. Do you want to just quickly go over those?
Yeah, for Darlene. The goals that were set last year, to access the employee's performance based on objectives previously set at this period. Oh, wait a minute, where am
Number
I? Here it
one.
is, here it is. Deploy employee self-service within Munis. This is ongoing. Some of it's been done. It ties into the new chart of accounts that are being set up, and as part of that, the whole notification to the employees about having paperless checks will go out to them.
Well, since it's still an ongoing goal, do you think
Yeah.
we should make that goal number one again
That
on
would
next
be-
year?
yeah.
Be reasonable?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was planning on doing. Appoint an assistant town accountant. She has completed that task and is training her as well.
Good.
Pursue certification by the Massachusetts Municipal Auditors and Accountants Association. She attended the annual conference in 2015. Darlene passed the legal portion of the exam, but still needs to take the practical test, which will be done in fiscal year 16.
Do you want to continue that on as goal number 2?
Yeah, we could do that.
Complete that?
Yep. And addressing issues that were contained, I think it's the FY15, isn't it, Paul? Should that be
Oh, the
auditor's report?
It was 14.
It was 14.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
14.
'cause the 15
Okay,
will
I
be the one
wasn't
we
sure.
just finished tomorrow.
Financial management letter on the general government side, and that's completed. Okay, under Section 2, other key performance factors, Darlene has done an outstanding job as town accountant during fiscal year 15. Her attention to detail is impressive.
Right.
And I had one more comment in here somewhere.
It's on the next page, Bob, right before the signature line, under section 6. You had your comment there.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to have it on paper. Darlene's performance during the recent school committee's overrun of their budget was exceptional. She worked well with the auditors in the school department.
My only comment is, I think that should be under section 2, other key performance factors.
Okay.
So I would put that up there because that was the one thing I was going to mention. I didn't even see it there at the end.
Yeah, I know.
I would just move that up there.
2. Now, as far as the goals and objectives for the next year, for the next performance cycle, I plan on working that with the help of the board, setting goals, and also with Darlene's assistance as well. So I have the next meeting, which is late in July.
We could have
July
maybe
20th, I
approved
think.
the new goals. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Darlene, if you have any projects you're working on or that you would like to accomplish, you're going to strive to accomplish in fiscal 16, we'd love to incorporate them into your goals. So share them with Bob. Or
Yeah, send them to me.
Board.
now.
That'd be great.
And that's it.
All right. And so we'll probably just, we'll wait on the approval of the performance review and salary.
Well, I think you can do the performance review portion.
Okay.
It's just
Even
not
though
the
we don't have the
goals.
goals for next year. Yeah. Well, be nice to do it all at once.
I mean,
Yeah, when
unless
we're
you,
doing
unless you guys want to add stuff to it.
that. Well, since we're reviewing last year's performance, I guess it doesn't really matter that we don't have next year's goals completely locked down yet before we give a rating. So
So we want to do the financial part?
if everyone's okay with it, we can do it now since it's based on last year.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we give Darlene a 2-step increase. The reason for that is there is a great inequity between the school business manager and Darlene, and I think Darlene's responsibilities are a lot more critical to the town. The school department just hired someone at about $122,000, and Darlene's a long way from that. And I'd like to see equity. Over a period of years, we can get her to that point. But I think we should do a double step at this point.
What's
Do you have this? Yeah.
what's the financial impact of that?
You-
Let's see, it's about a $6,000, it's a 4% raise.
Brings it up to 90,
Brings it up to 94,715.
90 to 90.
These are numbers Paul gave me, so.
Around 90 to 94,000. Just over 4%.
It's actually 88,912 to 94. I didn't look at the, I think this is an exceptional case. I think the amount of work that Darlene had to do during this whole thing was unbelievable, and I'm sure that a lot of her hours were never accounted for. So, you know, in private industry, that's how you reward people who have good performance. So, I'd like your support in this.
I agree with you, Bob. I agree. I think this was an exceptionally tough year, and I think she, really rose to the occasion, and she carried the ball probably for the biggest part of all the controversy and getting everything back in system together and bringing the munis into,
Right.
both the school department and all the employees in the school department and the towns. So we're all on the same page.
And of course, the most recent issue with the payment of checks to the school department, she had to really corral that.
Right. I mean, I would just say, from the very beginning of the issues with the school, I think Darlene actually helped almost bring some of those issues to light and help work through them. And it's been probably a few years now when Darlene's been very active in opening up her department, saying if they need help, if they need training. We know the audit reports went back a few years with some issues on the school side, and she's been very open to helping them out, and I've been very impressed with that. And just impressed this year about her additional effort, as you noted, in making a lot of transitions that we've already talked about. So thank you, Darlene. Any other, comments before we make a motion? Or
I would just say that I support that as well. I think it was an exceptional year. I think Darlene has really shown her expertise and her dedication to the town by the amount of extra work that she's done. Even with this payroll error, I was watching the Finance Committee meeting the other night, and, just, it was a tremendous amount of work reversing and correcting all of that within the system. So it's greatly appreciated, and again, I fully support that.
In addition to that, I think you, Darlene, may even have a few more additional responsibilities as some of the books are merged as far as oversight is concerned. So there will be some more job responsibilities towards the middle and end of fiscal 16 and moving forward. So it's just another important item to note, I think.
I support this as well.
Great. Well, I think that is actually a standing motion, so I would entertain a second to the motion for the step increase.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Okay, so that is approved, unanimous. And also on section 3, overall performance evaluation, we typically assign a rating there. Did you have one in?
Yeah, I actually did.
Is it exceptional?
Yeah, exceptional. That's what I was looking for.
I think she deserves a rating this year, particularly.
Consistently expected level. Oh, exceptional, yeah. That's what I want to.
It's, so that's the best possible performance rating. I think it'd be the first time, if that's right. So. Is there a second? Was that a motion, Bob?
Yeah, that's a motion.
Okay, for an exceptional performance rating under section 3. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
I have a quick question, maybe it's for you, Paul. Given that it's a 2-step increase, is there a title change as well? Or?
No, the
No?
title doesn't change. She basically go from step 4 to step 6 under
Okay.
her grade.
Still within her grade. Okay. And so the vote was unanimous. So we'll come back with some additional goals to add to this for the next meeting and finalize the performance evaluation. Great. Thank you. Okay. So now we can move on to Paul's evaluation. Let me pull that up here. So Paul and I met probably quite a few weeks ago now. I can quickly go over the goals from last year, the achievements, and just for people watching at home who maybe haven't read this. Goal number 1 is an ongoing goal that we have to manage, monitor, and report the progress on major projects. Paul, as we know, does that very consistently at all of our meetings under the town manager reports. He gave us a great update throughout the year on the energy services contract, the Center Fire Station, the Katrina Road Brownfield site, the Swain Road landfill, Barney Playground, Chelmsford Dog Park, the grinder pump bylaw implementation. So that goal was certainly completed. To implement the grinder pump bylaw as passed by town meeting, you can see it's quite lengthy in here. The general overview is that the implementation was successful. The residents were generally very supportive of having the town essentially pay for the repair and replacement. The contracts were executed successfully. I did note towards the end in here that during the investigation and the repair phase, it was noted that it would take more money than anticipated at town meeting to bring that bring the entire system up to the town's standard, very high standard. So that's not in here certainly as a negative. That wasn't related to Paul's implementation, but that's just a note of how the implementation of the grinder pump bylaw is unfolding and is going to continue to unfold into fall 2015. So it's just noted on there as part of the implementation process, but I think overall the goal was successfully completed. Goal number 3 was to explore additional regionalization and consolidation initiatives with other communities, school districts, and agencies. Paul has certainly done that. He does frequently report on those at our meetings. We are still moving forward. Paul's an active member of Middlesex 3. A lot of other organizations. We are working on a regional emergency communication dispatch center, which Paul's been very helpful with, been attending meetings, and he's been supportive of that efforts. Actually just a quick digression, the savings are looking to be well over the $200,000 range in the most recent report at the last meeting. So pursuing these efforts, at least preliminarily, does really pay off for the town, and Paul's been very aggressive with that. Goal number 4, implementing the recommendations from the DRR review of financial offices. Paul was supportive of those efforts with his financial management team, and those have basically been all implemented, or at least reviewed and considered, certainly. Other key performance factors. I won't read the entire thing, but basically the overview is Paul provides timely communication to the board and to residents. He's very responsive. He certainly has strong financial management skills and a thorough understanding of municipal budgeting. He proactively seeks out the support of grant programs and alike for the benefit of the town. He frequently participates in town events, including events that take place on nights and weekends, and this really is something that is unique and above and beyond. I've had other people actually comment from other communities that it's very nice to see the town manager at certain events and groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings, because not all town managers across the Commonwealth do that, especially on nights and weekends and outside the normal hours. It is really something above and beyond. And then note about Paul's management style, which allows his staff the flexibility to explore professional opportunities and expand their areas of responsibility. As far as goals are concerned for next year, goal number 1 is a continuation, essentially. It's been on here for a number of years, which is to manage, monitor, and report on the progress of major projects. It is really sort of, I think, a piece of his job responsibilities at this point, but we do like to put it in the goals so we have a way to sort of track it and monitor it. Goal number 2, explore additional regionalization and consolidation initiatives. This is another ongoing goal. I have some things listed on here on how it will be achieved, tracked, and measured. Working with Comcast to complete their license renewal process, and trying to incorporate the will of the community and Chelmsford Telemedia and some of the items that they're looking forward to. Goal number 4, beginning the process of planning for major capital projects, which are expected to rise in the near term, including school modular buildings, science labs, Chelmsford Forum, and explore potential funding options. Goals 3, 4, and 5, you'll see, are taken directly from the Board of Selectmen Town Manager goals, which we already approved for fiscal 16. We usually pick a few of those to incorporate into his performance evaluation. I put how that would be measured as basically meetings held, plans presented as far as prioritizing projects and proposing potential funding options, providing updates, and just the different options presented as a way of how we can sort of gauge our progress on this goal. And that will be ongoing, but there will certainly be enough to look at by the end of fiscal 16. Goal number 5, town manager will support the master plan recommendations for Center Square and Vinyl Square improvements. We do have some notes in there about, financial constraints and considerations. But ultimately, we're all looking forward to some additional progress on those. So that is what I have as goal number 5 for the year moving forward. Do we want to start with any questions or comments on the review in the next fiscal year before we talk about salary and section number 2?
Are we talking about salary tonight, or are we going into executive session for that? 'Cause
You know,
I know we did last year.
That's what we did last year.
We typically have always gone into executive session, but I think it's my understanding Paul has basically received just a 2% cost of living increase for the past 8 years since he's been here. So I think it would be appropriate, at least at this time, to, and I understand he would be okay with another 2% cost of living increase at this point. We have talked, and for the past few years, his salary has fallen behind that of some other officials even in the town, the school superintendent, and it's comparable to some other almost high-level department heads. We've noted the police chief, for example, in the past. I think we could maybe have a discussion in the future. We're right in the middle right now of coming to a close on some union negotiations and other things like that, and I think it would be good to finalize some of those union agreements and contracts before we move forward with, say, an additional merit increase, if that's something the board wants to consider at some point during the fiscal year. I think a 2% cost of living increase would be appropriate. But then moving forward, I think we've given Paul pretty exceptional performance evaluations and reviews for 8 years now, since before I was even on the board. So we certainly may want to consider a merit increase at some point this year, especially after we review some comparable salaries. So that would be my recommendation on the salary for tonight.
I just have a
Right.
quick question. So you had 4 goals for section 1, and then you have 5 goals. Did you?
Yeah, in the past, it's kind of gone from 3 goals to 4 goals. I added a 5th one this year. We don't, we don't have a set number that we have to stick by
Okay.
necessarily. So if the board and Paul are okay with 5 goals for next year,
Because some of these, I'm not sure
Right.
how much they are actual goals versus just what Paul does in the
Right.
normal course.
yeah, that's a discussion we've had for a
Manage,
long
monitor, and
time, so.
report on the progress of major projects. I mean,
It's his job.
Paul does that every day.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
right.
goals are one thing which are great to have, but I mean, look at this year. I mean, who was gonna project, some of the problems that we've had, and he was leading his team, between John Souza and Darlene, and, everybody did a great job, and it was because I think that he set the thing up,
Right.
from the get-go, that it was, and that's why everybody works, it's so coordinated. And, I mean, to just say that there's 2 or 3 goals, I mean, anything can happen, and it's his responsibility. I mean, he's the guy that everybody goes to, he's the go-to guy to get it squared away, you know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying, the difference
Yeah.
between what, his day-to-day responsibilities are
Yes.
versus what's an actual goal, something to work on.
Right.
If the board is happy with it, I'd be just as happy as well to take that off as a goal, because it really is one of a long list of just general day-to-day job responsibilities that he has, which we don't even try and include as far as the goals or his overall.
And I didn't mean to bring that up to criticize your
No, it's been-
role in doing this.
No, I'm
It was
taking it
more of an
personally.
observation.
Yeah.
And I actually have a goal
Okay.
that I'd like to discuss with you. I'm sure it won't come as a surprise to Paul, but one of the goals that I would like is for the town manager to prepare a balanced budget for fiscal year 17 and a 5-year plan reflecting a balanced budget for each year without using the stabilization fund or free cash to balance the budget. Because I would like to see, because we always have this discussion each year that we're going to have to cut services, that we're going to, what are we going to delete from the budget? And I think it would be good for us, for the community, to see what that would look like. To go through that exercise and see what it means to truly have a balanced budget that doesn't require bringing over money from the stabilization fund. So that people see that, if we have to live within these confines, then what does that look like? Does that mean less of a capital budget? Does that mean that library closes for a day during the week? What exactly does that look like?
I think a lot of it depends on the condition of the state right now, right, and what we're gonna get for local aid, or if we're gonna, where we're going with local aid. And I don't think anybody, even with the biggest crystal ball, I think, can predict right now, what's gonna happen there. And I think it'd be pretty hard to put a 5-year plan particularly together. I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Well,
It's
we
always
have
a
a
good
fi-
idea.
we have a
Yeah,
5-year
Right, I
plan.
know, but I mean,
Right.
to balance, you know what I mean, to balance things, because there's other things that we don't know, like, for example, the insurance, the great increase this year in it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that gonna continue forever? I mean, there's some things that we just can't put a finger on, I think,
Right. But we've put our finger on it enough to say that we're going to transfer $500,000 a year for the next 5 years out of our stabilization fund in order to balance the budget.
If
Okay.
could I just maybe
So we
interject
are able
quickly?
But you
to
said without
forecast
using
that.
it, though.
Right, and Paul could probably speak to this. So the past few years, probably 2 years, there has been the discussion about the unbalanced budget and then the use of the stabilization fund. But and maybe talking about the balanced budget this year is something we could entertain. My only question, or I guess comment on the 5-year balanced budget is, it's really been a long history of the 5-year budget projections being unbalanced. And for a long time, until we put OPEB into the budget, the budget was always forecast, because we forecast conservatively, as it's going to be unbalanced. And we always have balanced the budget, typically in the Springtown meeting before the end of the year, but certainly always at the end of the year. So I just don't think it makes sense to make 5 years of, create 5 years of budgets, what it would look like off our forecast, which is actually just, it's based on conservative figures that we then fix to create our one budget every year. So I certainly understand the idea of presenting a balanced budget, because we certainly worked on that and incorporated that into our policies, and I think there was some questions about, whether using free cash have we really gotten to that place yet about preparing a balanced budget? And maybe that's a conversation we have, but I think the 5-year budget forecast is something a little different personally.
So would you support the balanced budget for fiscal year 17 without using the stabilization fund or free cash to balance the budget?
I mean, that would certainly be my
As a
preference.
goal.
You know how we've voted. I would like to probably, we haven't really got through the budget process yet. I'd certainly feel more comfortable if I had some
problem
better
is-
idea about the next year's budget.
When we get to the budget, we rush through it so much that we don't get time to,
Well,
what I'm
now's the
saying?
time to talk
Yeah,
about
now's the
it,
time to talk about it.
because FinCom's already
Oh.
requesting a meeting. We're
Right.
going to be meeting in,
Yeah, that's
I don't
under
know,
my-
August, whenever he's requesting, and
Right.
that's going to be part of the discussions, and it's a goal.
Mr. Chairman, in response to what you said about not being able to plan, for the 5 years, we've got the forum coming up. We've
Mhm.
possibly got school buildings that are coming up, either with portables or something more permanent.
DPW, additional phases.
DPW.
potential.
Yeah, that is a
And
goal.
whatever we decide to build or not build on the fire site, the fire department site, I think you could put them in and you could plug them in. You might not make them, but, as long as we have an agreement that, these are just, just a shot in the sky to see what's coming up, because
No, that is goal
I
number
really
4.
want to see what the forum's going to cost us real soon.
Yeah, that is goal number 4.
But that is a
Just as a
goal.
quick digression, I guess.
Can I ask,
The major capital projects are definitely their own goal to explore those further this
Right.
year.
what happens if we don't exercise the option on the forum, Paul? Can we continue to lease
No,
it?
and the legislation ends in 2018.
Digressing a little bit.
That's it.
Okay,
I thought it was seven.
At that point, the town has no management rights
all right.
or ownership or any
Either
responsibility.
we buy, we pay for it, or we walk away, is that it?
That's correct.
Well, they'll
If
probably.
we
they
could,
might
I'd
try
like to not-
advertise it.
Not
What's that?
finalize the form discussion tonight.
No, I know.
wanna-
I just asked a
understand-
question.
No, one
because you
question's
just
fine,
mentioned
but
that.
if we're gonna keep following up on it, we can add that as an agenda item maybe in the future, just 'cause.
And in all fairness, Paul did bring this forward to us in 2013,
Right.
that we need to start thinking of these different projects.
My intent would be to seek town meeting money at the fall town meeting to begin the analysis of the Chelmsford Forum. Because even though it is 2018, as I think was noted earlier, you don't want to wait till 6 months or a year before to figure out what you're going to do. Because there's 3 things that could be done. One is do nothing and let it terminate. 2 is to exercise the town's option to acquire the forum per the legislation, which allows us to take credit for the capital improvements we've made in the facility. So therefore, you'd want to then do an appraisal of the building, a structural analysis, because you've got a big piece of land there in a building. I mean, the asset itself, if you look by assessed value, and we know assessed value is an appraised value, is over $2 million. And remember, the bulk of the building is in the town of Barica. The building itself's in Barica, and the land portion where they park the buses and so forth is in Chelmsford. That's the second option. The third option would be to go and request additional legislation to do something else from the legislature. And if you're going to do that, you've got to get some lead time to do that. So to have an effective planning process, we need, again, my planning would be to start this fall to request the town money and then have that so that we can make some decisions in 2016 as to what we're going to be able to do in 2018. Because if you wait too long, you're right, it's going to be rushed and we're not going to have the options.
And we have to balance that with full-day kindergartens,
Yeah.
or,
Right.
their need for that or desire for that. Portable classrooms, science labs, DPW phases.
But I guess if
We
I
got to
could...
figure out how to make that all fit.
Right, but
Right.
I guess
I
if
mean,
I can
that's-
jump
yeah,
into
that's
the
fine.
fray here, because we seem to have this, as you said, every year.
I'd like to stay.
By state requirements, we're required to have a balanced budget annually. Every city and town in the Commonwealth has to have a balanced budget. For the past 2 years, we've had a balanced budget that has not drawn upon our cash reserves. The first year, 2 years ago, we restored, we made a supplemental appropriation the fall town meeting from the free cash that was certified as of July 1st. And therefore, the town's financial condition improved.
Right.
Because we weren't, this past year, this spring, when the board said, we don't want you leaving town meeting with an unbalanced budget. We use from the stabilization fund with the expectation that we will come back at this fall town meeting, once free cash has been certified, to replenish the $500,000 in the stabilization fund. And the question was asked, well, what do we anticipate our free cash to be? We anticipate it'll be well over $1 million at this point. So that will allow us to put the $500,000 back into the stabilization fund, and also will fund our snow and ice deficit. And also we have to have a reserve for the police contract settlement. All those will be achieved. As we all know, at least I hope we would know by now, we're always going to have free cash to close out a fiscal year. We're going to have that this year. We've had it last year. We've had it every year. You've seen the 10s and 20-year histories of free cash, where I think that we haven't had negative free cash since 2004, and that was the anomaly in the formula. And so I guess once again we seem to come upon this situation where the Board of Selectmen doesn't want me to anticipate the entirety of the town's fiscal operations, including that we're going to return money back when we plan a budget for the entire year. And I guess when I hear the challenges of full-day kindergarten, plus the other challenges in the community that are going to command additional resources, I'm sort of surprised to once again hear this discussion of we want to see a budget that doesn't involve any use of cash resources at Springtown meeting at this time. I'm a little confused because I don't think it's a priority of the school committee. I don't sense that it's a priority of the town meeting. It's clearly not my priority, but it does seem to be a priority of the majority of the Board of Selectmen. And I guess that's where the disconnect is, because I guess, are we going back into the debate of whether we should provide property tax relief? And therefore, Paul, we want you to produce a budget that shows no use of cash resources, so that we can have some grand debate between funding full-day kindergarten versus providing property tax relief, or something in between, or something else. I don't know. All I can tell you is when you put out those type of budgets, it causes a lot of hardship that I think, quite frankly, is unnecessary. And particularly where we're entering a period of collective bargaining. We will not have I don't anticipate that we will have contracts settled by Springtown meeting. But yet we're going to have some plan on how we're going to fund contracts while we're debating whether to fund full-day kindergarten, other school operation expenses, as well as other community expenses. And to now throw into that mix a budget that I don't think will be adopted by anybody, of saying, well, give us a more draconian budget that doesn't use any cash reserves, I don't know what that accomplishes. Because I don't foresee any year that we're not going to have some level of free cash certified at the end of the fiscal year, even acknowledging the fact that the school department never turns any money back. Because if I go that way and have such an aggressive budget, you would then have years with negative free cash, which I don't see any community doing. And I don't think that's something that we want to do. So I guess I just don't agree with this goal, as you can tell by my comments, and I don't know where to go from here, because this would now be the second or third iteration of this debate, which what troubles me about it is not because we can't do the exercise. I just think the doing of the exercise is going to cause a unnecessary stress in the community, either in the form of either collective bargaining and or budgetary operations, that I just don't see as necessary.
Well, I do believe it's necessary, and for me, it's just a major, important philosophical issue for me, that we have a balanced budget. Matt, you and I have spoken about this. We have a balanced budget going into Springtown meeting that does not require the use of stabilization funds and the transfer of money around. We live within our means. I do believe Paul can do this. It is a goal. I do think it can be achieved, and I would like to see it.
Are there other comments?
Yeah, I'm just, when you state that you can't, or would prefer not to provide a budget without using stabilization funds, are you proposing that we change the policy that we have assigned to the stabilization fund that says that we aren't going to be using this for standard budget items, and this is only an emergency fund? So basically, my concern is that we're actually going against the policies that we've established. So do we need to address the policies and say that stabilization fund should be used for standard
Recurring budget
recurring
item.
budget items?
If I can answer that question, I think the answer is we're not doing that, because at the end of the year, the stabilization funding has not been used to fund the budget. It's an interim step until our free cash is certified in the fall. And so at the end of the year, when the budget is submitted to the Department of Revenue in December, there is no drawdown of the stabilization fund. There's a temporary transfer that happens between the April town meeting and the October town meeting. But when all is said and done, the 500 that's transferred out this year will be replenished. So I don't think it violates any policy, because the final budget that's adopted by the community does not draw upon the stabilization fund in any manner or form. And in fact, it's just not happening. We're talking about an interim measure because, and the reason we did that interim measure was the first year, we didn't like the other option, which was leaving the town meeting with an unbalanced budget.
Right.
But at the end of the day, let's acknowledge the fact, or we can just change our whole financial plan. Because as you know, some communities will then go with the balanced budget and then fund their capital from the, from free cash. I mean, we see
Reduce
it.
spending.
We see it in different places. So again, we're talking semantics as opposed to reality. The custom and tradition in Chelmsford has been that we operate in this manner in terms of the realization that every budget that we're going to have, we're going to generate free cash at the end of the year. And I'm fully confident when we finish the next year, we're going to have free cash in 16 as well. The key is that as long as you're not drawing down the use of that, which would basically be deficit budgeting, because in essence, you would be living beyond your means. We've never done that, and we don't intend to do that. And I just don't, and that's where you would get into trouble. And again, I've done it for 9 years in this community, and I think it's worked.
Bob?
I mean, I've been going to town meeting for a long time, and it seems to me we've always had a balanced budget when we leave in the spring under Bernie.
Yeah, and how did he draw down the stabilization fund, Bob, when Bernie was here? I mean, we've seen the chart. The
Yeah.
stabilization fund was at $9 million, and it went down to about $2 million. That's
All right.
deficit budgeting.
Okay.
We've not done that since I've been here in fiscal year 2007.
Okay,
That's
so-
a fact.
Bernie used a lot of the sewer money before.
Well,
It was an
not
enterprise
even,
fund.
not even the sewer money. He
Did use
the
2 million one
library,
year,
the
3
police
million
station.
another.
I mean, I'm not
Right,
saying
I mean-
Bernie's an angel.
not looking
But
at it.
one other comment I want to make about George's comment about the state, and that's, we've been going through the state thing for like 3 or 4 years now, okay? And as far as I'm concerned, they can pound you know what, because they're not going to give us anything. I don't think for a good long time we won't see any changes.
You're talking about additional funding.
Yeah, additional
I
funding.
mean, it might go the other way. I mean, because of the
Yeah.
deficit we have with them.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
the
we
deficit
do
he
have a
was-
different,
yeah.
we do have a different administration, and maybe it will be
I have
different.
confidence in this administration, I really do, but I think that he was left with such a negative
Right,
balance.
right,
It's just,
Right.
who knows what's gonna happen.
Well, I guess I have a few final comments, and maybe we can just vote. I think the last 2 years have been a little bit of an anomaly. We did add $1 million into the budget by trying to absorb our OPEB liability, which, as we know, is a liability. And moving forward, if we are going to implement a new program such as full-day kindergarten, I guess I don't know what the school committee's plan is, if they're going to be asking for additional funding, whether it's a few $100,000 or what it may be, if we may need to take a similar approach that we've done, say, last year, for example, to try and ease that new program into the budget like we did with the $1 million for it. I think that's reasonable if we're not drawing down the stabilization fund. Certainly, not preferable, but understandable anyways. And my second comment is I feel a little uncomfortable while we manage the town as far as managing Paul and his goals. I feel a little uncomfortable forcing such a divisive goal into his performance evaluation and appraisal that he, as you can tell, he's sort of vehemently opposed to, and we've been having a lot of sort of fights over how to handle this free cash and budgeting and tax issue, and I'm not sure I want to have that fight right now. I think we should maybe continue to have these conversations during the tri-board meetings and throughout the year as we go into the budget. What are we going to put in this year, such as capital and full day K and these new capital projects and things like that. But I think we should keep having those conversations, maybe separate to these goals. And if the will of the board is otherwise, it is, but that's just my
So
final
the-
thoughts on it now.
To, Mr. Chairman, to use your name, your line that you've used quite frequently, you want to kick the can down the road, right?
No, that's
You
not
don't
what
want to
it's-
deal with it now. Let's deal with it now. Why not?
It's not dealing with it now by putting it in his goals. If we're going to have continued discussions at town meeting and at tri-board meetings like we've always had.
This is a Board of Selectmen policy. This isn't a town meeting policy.
Bob, if you want to put it in, that's fine. I just explained my point.
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
done.
but I think it's a bad point. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, and I hate to do this, but under the charter, the budget that's presented to town meeting is the town manager's budget with the recommendation of the finance committee. It's not the Board of Selectmen's budget that's presented to town meeting. And I guess if the board wants to adopt a goal that in a way directs or constrains the manager and his budget, then I think I'd ask you to get an opinion from town council whether that's authorized under the town charter.
Okay.
If that's what you want, because I'm just troubled by what I just don't see that, and or the other question is what are the implications are that if that goal isn't met? I mean, where are we going?
Same implication
Where are
as
we
if
going with
any
this?
other goal isn't met.
Right, which is what? So if I do 3 out of the 4 goals and that goal isn't met, I guess the question is, what are we
Well,
trying to
and
what are we trying to
also-
achieve here?
And also the, I mean, as I see it, the performance review is not just for these few goals, but just your performance throughout the year on many different things. And it's sort of balanced between these 4 specific goals, and like I said, how you conduct your job on a day-by-day basis. So we're not weighting the goals, we're not putting an individual weight to each one, where that goal would be 50% and the other ones are only, 15 or 10, however many we end up having.
Right. No, I mean, it's.
But since we're coming back to Darlene's evaluation on the 20th, why don't we just come back with Paul's evaluation on the 20th? Because it seems like emotions are running a little high, and
Yeah.
we certainly don't want to
Sure.
do something that's the manager's going to be very upset about. But at the same time, we're his boss, and we have the right to put in goals that we want to see. We want to see him implement. So I think it warrants another conversation, and I recommend we hold off until the 20th. And we can talk about town council so that we're not overstepping.
Sure. Why don't we? I'm okay with waiting to finalize the review until the next meeting as well. If people want to wait on this point, if you think you may change, or you just don't want to make if we don't want to make a decision when tensions are running high, that's understandable.
What, Bob?
I don't know. I just.
No.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Move to table the discussion of the manager's review till the next meeting.
Do we want to, like we did with Darlene's, finish the last year portion and then
Sure.
move forward with the next year portion next time? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
why
you
don't
could
we-
do that, because we have to put in for the raise now, because it takes effect the day after tomorrow, so.
Makes it easier than retroactive a little bit.
Yeah.
On the COLA. We already did vote on the 2%, is that right? I think we did vote on that. So the only remaining.
We voted, didn't we?
No, we didn't vote on the
Didn't vote.
2%.
Oh, we didn't vote on that. Okay, so we have that, and then section 2.
Okay, what rating do you want to do here?
You can do that first. Well, my recommendation, I've recommended this my past 4 or 5 years on the board, is consistently exceeds expected level of performance. I think for, his completion of the goals we did set out the last year, and then the items that I noted under his key performance factors, people from other communities that I bump into, who know Paul and know of his reputation, always speak very highly of him. As someone who does go above and beyond as a town manager, and as helping to be a community leader, and not just being in the position but really trying to improve the community. I really feel like he's that type of town manager, so that's my recommendation for performance evaluation level under section 3.
Okay.
Consistently exceeds.
Okay. I'm struggling with that a little bit, and the only reason is going back to the balanced budget, the discussion we keep having, and Paul and I not being on the same page with that. You know, on other matters, he's a great town manager, but for me, I just, and it comes as no surprise to Paul, I just really struggle with that. And I do believe we should start with a balanced budget. I do believe we are capable of doing that. And so I would recommend a meets expected level of performance, which is the same recommendation I gave last year. If we can start the year with a balanced budget without drawing into other funds, the stabilization fund, which I don't believe we should anyways, then that would increase perhaps even to exceptional performance, because I think this was a strong year where he had to collaborate with the schools, and I see he's going to have to do that next year as well with a new superintendent. So that's my recommendation.
Certainly. Any other thoughts on it?
I mean, I'm between, my recommendation would be between your recommendation and the next one up. I mean, I know the budget is it is a big part of the whole thing. I mean, it's my 7th year. I mean, Paul's never had a problem with the budget in the end, but I know, like you say, you want to get there one way, he wants to get there another way, and I guess as long as you get there, you're okay. It's okay. But it's such a diversified job. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I don't know how he keeps up with all of it. So I mean, and nobody's more passionate about their job, and so I mean, I'm not trying to run a club for him or be a cheerleader for him, but I just see what he's done, and I know what he did even during the recall, when he could have walked away from here for a lot more money at a town that would have been a lot easier to work for. Mm-hmm. And because they have money, it's a very affluent town. And I was there when the offer was made, and he refused it. He said, I love the town, I want to be here. And I can't fault him with any project we attack. He always comes up with the answers. So, I mean, that's all I get to say. I don't know what more I can say, or anybody else can say.
Thank you.
What was the rating we gave Paul last year?
Consistently exceeds.
Consistently exceeds?
Yeah, it was a 3-2 vote.
Correct.
And I would like this, I do think this is important, that this is unanimous. So I don't want to leave here with Paul feeling that this is negative, because I do value Paul very highly as a town manager.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have my thoughts about the budget. So,
Understandable.
oh no, I was
I
just
don't know.
curious to hear what Laura and Bob say. Because to be honest with you, I could go either way. Paul does a lot for the community. He does a lot of great things. So.
Right. I don't know if I know you're our newest member, Laura, certainly a value member. You've worked with Paul for a few months now.
Right, and so my experience with Paul is limited, at this level, and so far, I've seen a lot of all the work that he is doing, as well as I was running, there were just so many raves about what Paul does for this town. So, it's not just my opinion. It seems to be there's a consensus that he's working very hard, and I feel exactly the way Janet does about this budget. So I'm, at this point, I'd be willing to say that based on the goals that he's been given, I think that he's consistently meeting expectations. But I really would like to push to see that we work more on budget goals as well for next year.
Okay. Okay. That's good feedback. Thank you. It looks like we're a little split as far as, choosing the score, if you will.
What, you don't know how I'm going to vote?
Oh, we're a little split is all I said. You did make some comments. I've made a recommendation. I guess I'll entertain a motion at this point if there's no more comments, so.
I would just, before the board votes, it's like, I just want to go on the record. I want to thank really the department heads and the staff in the office. I mean, a lot of discussion has been about the town manager, but the town manager is one person who's leading a very diverse town government. And honestly, it's really, I'm blessed to work with such a talented and dedicated crew of people. We saw one earlier this evening in our town accountant, who, though not my appointment, is my partner in the town government. Clearly, our finance director, police chief, public works director go on, Trish and Sharon and so forth in my office. And so it is a great collaborative effort, and I really just don't want this discussion to end without my acknowledging them. The other comment that I would want to make in closing is I think that one has to realize, and we sort of touched upon it earlier, as we were sitting here a year ago, and it was touched upon earlier, and saw what was ahead, or tried to envision what was ahead, we sort of didn't see what was ahead, and it was nobody's fault. And it wasn't just the school crisis, which sort of had me and Frank Antonelli, fielding the debates and the questions at November town meeting, but also was the fact that, again, a year ago, we didn't foresee that we'd be replacing both our public safety chiefs in terms of Chief Murphy's unexpected retirement in the fall, and then obviously we did foresee Chief Curran's retirement coming up at the end of this year. But I would like to think that's another example where, again, I think we've implemented the successful project, and I think we've been very fortunate to have Chief Spinney come aboard, and I think he's done well so far, and I expect the same, with the. And thought the process went well with the selection of Chief Ryan for the fire department. So again, I just would want to point out to the board, as was noted earlier, that things will occur that we don't foresee, and that's part of the discussion. And so again, it isn't just based upon one or two priorities. It's the reality that happens after you make your plans. And again, it's been a rewarding year, looking forward to the challenges that come in the year ahead. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, and thank you. I usually do ask for employee comments, so thank you. I apologize. But good. If there are no more comments, I'd entertain a motion. Bob?
I didn't make a comment, did I?
I thought you did. I'm sorry. No, comments or motion is what I said, so please go.
Okay. I'd feel a lot better if we could include that goal that Janet asked for, because I'm stuck between meets expected level and consistently exceeds.
Well, I think the purpose of doing this now is because this is his evaluation on his last year's performance, and we will finalize his next year's goals at the next meeting. But I understand. I guess it does, maybe play into your decision. Are you saying you're not ready to decide, or until? I mean, it's going to be our decision on whether we include that goal or not, or next year, or at our next meeting. I think that's pretty clear. So, I'm not sure if that, that's going to be our decision, just like this is now. So,
Okay.
I'm not sure one really, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not sure one really has to do with the other. One is the value he's provided over the past year,
Okay.
and one is the goals
Will be
for
the
the next
following
year.
And it's a bit ironic that the person I worked closest for the last 9 months of the last year is no longer on the board. And that's hard as well, because obviously Pat Wojcik, as chair, would be the one I'd have the most dealings with, and she's not part of this process. So it's, like I said, I think it really is meant to look backwards, not forward.
Right, yeah. Okay. Did you make a motion?
No, I'm waiting for you to, are you done with your comment?
Yeah,
Because
I'm
I'll
done
make
with
a
my
motion.
comments. I'm done with my comments. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you want me to make a motion?
Yeah, make the motion.
Somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we rate the town manager's performance for the fiscal year 2015 to consistently exceeds expected level of performance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. We got through last year's performance. We'll finish the goals for Darlene and the town manager at our next July meeting. All right, almost wrapped up for the evening. We did get through meeting minutes, so we'll move on to, thank you. I know that was a little tenuous, everyone. I'm glad we got through that portion. But we'll move on to Selectmen liaison reports and referrals. George, do you have any for us this evening?
Yeah, I got a couple. First of all, I hope everybody has a good 4th of July and safe 4th of July weekend coming up. And hope some of you get to the parade and get out there on the 3rd. It's a great night, and you always meet a lot of people you haven't seen for quite a while, and it's, it's almost like a homecoming event. It's nice, On a sadder note, I had a couple of people passing on this week. Dominic Tringali, who was a very close friend of Jimmy Lane's and a good friend of ours, and he was at our comedy night on last Thursday, and he was the gentleman who he did suffer a heart attack, I guess, while he was fishing at Winnipesaukee, and they had a 3-day search for him, and they did find him, and so tomorrow there's a service for him at Dolan's Funeral Home, and then there's some kind of a celebration of life afterwards, I guess, at the Princeton Station. Dominic was a very nice gentleman. I didn't know him very, very well. I knew Jimmy was very, very close to him, but all my contacts with him were extremely positive. Another gentleman who passed away the other day, who gave a tremendous amount of time to the youth of our town, George Greenman from North Chelmsford, but he worked probably the last 35 years. He helped run in the Chelmsford Little League program, and among other things, he was great to the youth of our town. A real nice man, and he'll be greatly missed. I'd like to wish, on the other hand, I'd like to wish Mike Curran, who had a real nice party, was very well attended on Saturday. You did a great speech, Bob. I'd like to wish Mike very best wishes. And I guess that's about it.
Great.
Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah, I'm glad to see that John Harrington stuck around, because I had an item here on the Center Water District on Turnpike Road, that storage tank.
Little one?
Yeah, the little one on Turnpike Road.
We'll see if it's a question or comment.
It looks like someone's cutting brush or something up there. I had a resident call me about it. Could you comment?
Mr.
Yes,
Harris.
John Harrington, Water Commissioner, Chelmsford Water District. The comment, Bob, yes, we did cut brush and some trees around that tank because moss was growing on and so forth. We also have brought in tailings from Community Tree to build up the slopes around it, to give it, a little bit. It was sloped way down, so we're filling that in, and then we'll cap it, and we'll put in grass seed. When it's done, it's going to be a much better appearance in the area like we did in Lock Road.
Yeah, I just wasn't quite sure if it was someone up there picking at trees or if it was an official
No,
task that you were doing.
we received that email from the resident,
Yeah,
and
okay.
we have addressed that.
Okay, good. Thanks, John.
Concerns, at least.
Next time, we're going to put you first on the agenda. Don't
Anything else?
No, that's it for now.
We'll still keep your water on, Bob.
Oh, I won't keep it on. Don't worry about it.
No.
I've given Nelson strict instructions, odd day only. The next item is for Paul, and that's, have we heard back from our illustrious state reps about the liquor things for the two town halls?
No, unfortunately, there was a hearing that was going to be scheduled on our bill 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, the co-chair from the Senate, Representative Kennedy, was ill and wasn't able. He'd been battling cancer and wasn't able to attend the hearing, so they canceled it. And then I don't know if you heard the news today, but last evening he passed away. He's the chair of the committee that the bill is assigned to, and that's why the flags will be lowered for the next week, because the governor ordered the flags lowered to half-mast until his burial and interment, which is, I guess, going to be next Monday. So because of that committee, obviously, work hasn't progressed, and therefore that bill has not moved forward. And so it's obviously not going to happen before the end of July, and we'll see if we can get it done in the fall.
Okay, thank you. Another one for you, Paul. Right after I got elected, which was probably, 16 months ago or something like that, I put in a ticket in your
See Quick Fix?
Quick
Yeah,
Fix,
yeah.
complete with a picture of the pole
Yeah,
on 21 Algonquin Road.
21 Algonquin, okay.
Yeah, it's still not
Is it double pole? Or is
It's
it
a double
link?
pole,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
double pole.
okay.
Anything else, Bob?
But even on the old pole, it's not working, so
Is it, what's not working, the,
it's, in other words, there was a pole there.
yeah,
They put the light on it.
oh, so the light's not working?
The
The
light's
street
not-
light, street
Yeah,
light's
that's
not
what I
working.
mean.
Oh, okay,
Street lights don't.
okay.
You gotta clarify, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Good. Janet, do you have anything?
Just a couple of quick things. I spoke with Al Thomas, chair of the school committee, late this afternoon. It's currently scheduled for there to be a school committee meeting tomorrow night, but it's not going to happen. It's going to be moved to July 14th. He's going to be working with new superintendent, Dr. Lang, to put together an agenda. And speaking of Dr. Lang, July 1st will be his first day, so that'll be pretty exciting.
I thought had to be delayed.
No, they're working something out with Lowell to have him come on sooner rather than later. And Mr. Thomas asked me to make the comment about the payroll error that everyone either has or will have returned the extra funds. So
One person.
Pardon me?
One person.
My understanding from the
That's what
chair of the
they
school
tell me.
committee is that's all going to be resolved and
Oh, yeah.
everything's great.
Yeah.
And once again, thank you to Darlene and her team for working extra and making that happen. And that's pretty much it. That's all I have.
If I
Finance committee.
yes.
Did you want to cover that in yours? When we're gonna? What's the
Yeah.
purpose of the meeting and?
Well, they did ask, the finance committee would like to schedule a tri-board meeting. I wanted to just check and see if there are any dates that really didn't work. I'm not sure.
Do you know
He
the
didn't give me
purpose?
any specific dates.
Did he say to you,
He even
Paul,
said,
by chance?
just to
Well, we
get the ball rolling.
Okay.
Sort of that
we've
feeling
gotta-
I got.
We've got to start. I mean, we're,
Yeah.
as in 5 weeks will be the deadline for petition articles for fall town meeting. Budget notice will noticeably go out on October 1st, and then, again, capital process will start thereafter. I think the discussion that at the finance committee levels, we need to have some kind of a meeting to coordinate where we're going, particularly as we're doing budgets and also collective bargaining. There has to
Okay.
be some consensus in terms of where we're going in order to effectively start the budgeting process going forward. So my sense is it's probably an August type of meeting as opposed to a July meeting, just in terms of, because we just won't, we obviously want to know how we close out the current fiscal year, and hopefully the state budget will be completed, and then start some discussions towards the fall.
Did he give you any guidelines? Is he looking for July or is he looking for August?
He didn't actually specify a date. I'd like to reach out to him. If people don't have any, major vacations coming up in July and August.
dates that aren't good
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm not free until after July 20th.
After July 20th. Okay. No, we can certainly plan on that. I think that would give some time for the new school personnel to be in place for at least a few weeks before we have the first meeting. So we'll look maybe very end of July or maybe early August. Maybe a Monday night meeting in between a selectmen meeting. In between the weeks of a selectmen meeting, those have been good in the past. Sometimes
The
maybe
27th is a,
27th potentially. Okay. So reach out to the school committee and finance committee and.
or if they even wanted to do a Thursday to keep with
Right.
their schedule. I don't know how that
Yeah.
works for Paul though, with all the things he has.
Thursday,
Or you-
Tuesdays. Vivian, you good?
That's right.
Oh, well.
So if you don't want me to do minutes, go for it.
Well, then there you go. We're Monday only.
We'll have to get someone else. All right. No, I'll keep that feedback in mind. I'll reach out to him and see if I can get some better guidance. We can't communicate, via email or phone if it's for purposes of scheduling a meeting. So I'll reach out to you again if they give me some tentative dates on what they're thinking as well.
Okay.
On that, would you mind maybe, as the school committee rep, if you've been talking to Al Thomas, would you see if either he or another member of the school committee would like to attend the beginning of our July 20th meeting, just to give a more personal update? They'll have their new Michelle Cresta, their business director, in place, their new superintendent. They have resolved some recent issues, and I think it would just be great. I talked about it at the beginning of the year, to have them come into a few more of our meetings to keep us up to date on all their progress throughout the year. So
Okay.
would you maybe see if he'd want to come
Sure.
in? That'd be fantastic.
While we're talking about the school committee, and this is a Paul question, I heard that they were looking at hiring 6 or 7 new people, employees potentially. Could we just get a breakdown of what costs, every time we hire someone, what that's costing the town in terms of insurance and benefits and the future OPEB, so that we have a better understanding of that when we make these decisions?
They voted on that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
think,
voted
I
on
think
it,
we,
but
I think
didn't
we.
see that in their budget.
No, it's not in their budget. It was discussed. I did watch the meeting from home, and as it was occurring, and they hired people in the special education department as opposed to sending them out of district for placements, and that included I think it was 2 full-time people and a few part-time people. And as was noted at the time by Mr. Antonelli, right, their benefit costs are not part of the school department budget; they're part of the general budget of the town. So things such as health insurance, effect on our our other benefits, including such items such as Medicare tax, unemployment insurance, and so forth, and even workers' comp aren't factored into their budget. The difficulty with that question, Laura, is it really depends upon what these people end up taking as benefits. I mean, if they take a family plan or an individual plan, I mean, we know the cost of benefits. It just comes down to what is it that they end up ultimately choosing, which they don't know. I mean, you can't make that a condition of employment, but we can give you some general data in terms of
Well, I think that's what I'm really looking for, is general data, because
Yeah.
I think as we go forward,
Right.
just making arbitrary decisions in one group and not realizing the full impact that that's going to have on the town
Right.
is, how, trying to look at ways to control costs in the future. These things really need to be more visible. We just can't ignore the fact that benefits are so expensive. They really, every single employee we hire, we've got to figure this in. We just can't, it's not like in the old days where it's just, add another body. Benefits are going to be with us forever.
Right. It wouldn't have changed the decision, because even if you had factored in the benefits, it still would have been financially advantageous. Where it becomes the issue is they never return any money to the town.
Exactly.
And they basically said, well, we'll just keep it held into the contracted services line of their special education budget, because they don't know who may move in any given time in the district, and that was how they left it. So, yeah, we can do that, but I don't know that it's going to have any impact on their decision-making.
Because it's still within their budget.
Still within their budget, right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, Paul will have to factor it in, but it
Right.
will be a cost, certainly.
Right, and then even the other thing they're doing, they're hiring all these substitute teachers, which is fine, but that's going to affect our Medicare tax, it's going to affect our workers' comp ratings and so forth. That's not seen in their budget, but it's something that we didn't budget for when we were doing when they brought it. And again, I don't think it would change their decision, because we heard the cost the excess cost they were paying. But you're right; those never get reflected on the town side.
I think it should be part of the discussion so that they're aware of it,
It can be
too.
right, but instead they look at, well, what did the town appropriate to the school department budget when they make their, or some make their judgment on whether we're supporting the schools enough. They just look at the school
Right.
total line appropriation as opposed to the net school spending costs of the town.
I'd love to
which
know
that
what
would
the
be part
real,
of.
what the real number is.
And I'm actually surprised that Finance Committee's not asking those questions as
Right.
well, since they looked at.
Right, Tom was sitting there in the room that night.
And you
But
know-
did he, yeah, I know, I
Right.
could see him
The
on his
school
old
committee,
pad.
the school committee never lets us down. They found a new fringe benefit. It's $1 million life insurance policy for the new superintendent. Never in any other contract.
It's negotiations. Sure, it was term.
Just making friends, aren't you?
Oh, I'm sorry. They hire a superintendent for more money than what they were paying, and I think it has to be said on TV.
Okay.
In the public sector, in the private sector, so to speak, when you let a manager go, usually you hire the manager for less money that comes in. You don't hire him for more money. Mr. Lang may be a fine gentleman, but, why do they have to keep bumping it up? It's up to $175,000.
Well, I think you certainly had a difference in experience between the two superintendents.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of data that supports the salary that they offered him.
Right. So maybe that's a discussion for another day. I think you made a
There's
fine point.
A lot of
and,
data to support salaries within the town side, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Right. Thank you, Bob.
Couple other things.
sorry.
The Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, they voted on some best practices policy that they were going to be putting on their website, and I was just wondering, the question came up, did they need any additional approval levels, or were they free to make these policies and now bless the trail with them?
Do you know which trail? I'm not sure. I didn't
This
know
is
they had
the bike trail,
Oh, the bike path.
the Freeman Trail.
As the name suggests, they're an advisory committee.
Yeah.
Exactly,
They don't
so
have
which
any,
is
they don't
why
have
I
any
wanted.
policy authority. They can, just
Right.
like they adopted their draft plan, which they got off a comment, I mean, it's recommendations, but.
So should I let them
Yeah.
know that they should make a
They-
presentation to this committee, this board,
Well,
with
We
the
should know
changes that
about
they're
it.
making?
Yeah, they're welcome to present it to the Board of Selectmen, but obviously the,
It has no teeth.
yeah, right.
Should they be working with Paul?
Right, I mean, yeah, basically, it's
Yeah.
Public Works is responsible for the maintenance of the rail trail
Well,
and,
this was talking more like, courtesy, speeds, so telling people I'm on your left and things like
Whatever.
that, so it
It's
was,
a regional entity too, so that
Right.
might sort of have implications as well. I mean, if it's only courtesy type things, but I mean, maybe they can speak to Paul first and he can
Right.
give us some guidance on whether it does need
Right.
to come to us, and
Right.
then we can take it from there.
Now that Westford's gonna get a piece, maybe they'll build a parking lot?
I want to go there. The rail trail
I know
will be
you don't wanna go
extended, and that's
I do.
good.
and I guess the last thing I had was, there was a pretty heated meeting that happened last week with the Housing Authority, and one of the questions that came up was the moratorium, that the promised 2-year moratorium was not actually granted to Chelmsford, so we have
For Mill Road.
or Mill Road, and so we have more 40B proposals that will be coming up much sooner. So I was just wondering if maybe we could put this on an agenda item to talk about at a later meeting, but obviously sooner rather than later, so that we get on top of what's going on there.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, we can certainly put an update on the next meeting. Maybe Paul, or you or Evan can give us an update on why, or,
yeah, we can have, yeah, I mean, I was here in the room when they had the discussion last Thursday evening on the update to the Affordable Housing Master Plan, and, yeah, I think they'd, like I said, I think they'd welcome the opportunity to come before the board and present their
Yeah.
concern.
sure, why don't we see if we can schedule that
Do we
for
have to
July.
approve that, Paul?
Yes, you do have to approve the update to the plan, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're ready to, that's not ready to come to you because they got to go to the planning board first and the Board of Appeals. But ultimately, it would come to the board if it survives that far.
All right, just, I think, two things quickly. I'm sorry.
I'm
That
done,
was it,
thank
right?
you.
Just a quick question with Al, will he actually be an agenda item?
Yeah, I would list him as first under announcements, or
Okay.
maybe,
I'm sure
under
he's going to
rep-
want to be pretty early in the program.
yeah, reports and presentations. I would like to put him
Okay.
basically first on the agenda.
Okay.
Yes, we could. All right, and then the Master Plan Implementation Steering Committee is actually looking for a new representative. Pat Woe just was their representative, so if anyone has any interest, I think they only meet a few times a year to try and receive updates from the committee and report back to everyone on the progress. If anyone has any interest, just maybe let me know and we could schedule an appointment as a liaison appointment on the next agenda. I think other than that, tonight I'll just announce my office hours at Panera in Drum Hill on Thursdays from 5 to 6. And anything else? Any press questions this evening? None. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
Second?
I'd second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Great. Meeting is adjourned. Next meeting will be July 20th. Thank you, everyone.